Hi, everybody. Rich Bornstein here. Welcome to the heart of the story, where we dive into stories behind the work, the why behind the mission, and the moments that make it unforgettable. Please welcome our special guest, Laurel Mintz, a powerhouse at the intersection of marketing and venture capital. As the founder and CEO of Elevate My Brand, she spent the last 16 years leading award-winning campaigns for iconic names like Verizon, Paw Patrol, Sprinkler, and Squishmallows, helping brands break through the noise and drive measurable growth. She's also a general partner at Fabric VC, where she invests in the next generation of consumer tech, health, and fintech startups. With a marketer's eye and a strategist's edge, Laurel is passionate about scaling visionary companies and amplifying diverse founders. Whether she's behind a brand or backing a startup, Laurel's mission is clear: to elevate innovation and create real, lasting impact. Welcome. As I was researching you, I became an instant fan. You are definitely a dynamo. So I'd like to start with one basic question, and that is, why do you do what you do?
Well, I don't think I have a choice, Richard. My dad always said I came out of the womb like this, just impact driven and just driven in general. And I think when you have that energy and you listen to what the universe tells you your path is, you're always going to find the right direction. And so, of course, that started on the agency side. And then I saw the opportunity to have a more national and eventually, we hope, global impact with founders. So that's my why. And of course, building a brighter future, because I myself am a founder and I know how hard it is.
So you built Elevate My Brand into a powerhouse agency working with names like Meta and Geico. What core philosophies do you credit with helping these companies scale so successfully?
I think our philosophy has always been around kind of going wide. We're an omni-channel agency and we built it very intentionally based on what our clients' needs were. So originally we were just doing kind of one thing and then we saw they needed this, that, and the other. So we hired based on what those clients were telling us they needed. Now for the bigger brands like a Geico or a Meta, obviously they have huge teams. So we were only focused in kind of one piece for them. But for the more startup and mid-market brands, we're really able to build a comprehensive strategy and then execute. A lot of firms only do the strategy piece. A lot of firms only do the execution piece. We consider ourselves to be what we call center-brained, inspired by creative, but really driven by the data.
Well, that's awesome. So storytelling is really central to modern marketing. How do you help your clients craft stories that not only resonate, but create that emotional connection that all of us are kind of looking for?
This is going to be the least creative answer, but it has to start with the data side, right? Like I always tell people, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them and they're not all pretty. I hope I can curse on the podcast. And I can tell you what my opinion is on pretty much anything. I feel like I'm pretty well versed, but our opinion, Richard, doesn't really matter. We need to make sure that we are differentiating them first from what's happening in their market. And in order to do that, you need to see exactly who they are trying to be when they grow up and who their current competition is. From there, we like to do what we call a creative mind map session where we really drill into the who, what, where, when, why, how of a brand. And that helps us to ideate campaign concepts and really the things to your earlier point, why people need to care about the brand. And then our team, of course, will go and craft messages, positioning, targeting, et cetera. And then we'll survey their audience and make sure that what we believe to be true as a hypothesis is actually delivering.
Which is awesome. You know, when I was at studios or various jobs, we couldn't really test anything. It was like there was no money to be had. It was like, what do you think of this? So it's great that now we have the tools to do it. So I'm sure that helps a lot. Um,
Absolutely.
how was your personal brand story influence the way you attract clients and build the trust in such a competitive universe?
That's a great question. I wasn't always this brand. In fact, before I started my agency, I was a corporate M&A attorney. So I was very much like in this box. And I think it took me a couple of years into running an agency to realize that, oh, no, wait, people buy me and they don't actually like the super polished version. They like me when I curse and when I, make mistakes and when I am uniquely who I am, which is messy. I mean, humans are messy, right? I think I'm a fun version of messy, but I think when I shifted and realized that I didn't need to be a corporate brand and that my unique personality was what really attracted our best clients and our aligned clients, more importantly, that was what set me on the right path.
Yeah, which is, goes back to the point of creating that human connection. You're real. You're not a
Yeah.
robot. So I think that's great. But just meeting you, I don't think I could ever picture you as being messy, but okay.
It's all a facade, Richard.
Aha, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So, with your team being 100% diverse from day one, how do you think that diversity enhances your client work and the stories you tell on their behalf? I mean, again, diverse has become, a little bit not necessarily the greatest word today, but the reality of it is you live it, you believe it, and it makes us all better. So you've done it from day one. You didn't react to something. Can you take us through that a little bit?
I just always hired who was best for the role. And because we work in so many different industries on the agency side, it made sense for us to have a diversity of thought in terms of who our team was. I have a very different perspective than a queer man on our team would have, than a millennial woman, and so on and so forth. And most of the brands that we launched and elevated had multiple target audiences, primary, secondary, tertiary, sometimes beyond that. And so that kind of confluence of unique perspectives made us a stronger agency. It made us able to bring a unique voice to our clients. And then, now everyone knows the statistics, which is that when you do have diversity of thought in boardrooms, on teams, the creative output and the financial output is just better. So again, that's the statistics side. We really are more of a creative focus in terms of our team on the agency side, but I think that it was, again, non-negotiable for me. It was, who was the best person for the role? How do we create the best campaigns to deliver for our clients, period.
So a lot of companies struggle to stand out online. I mean, that's probably everybody's greatest challenge. How do you cut through the noise? How do you cut through the clutter? What do you see as the most common storytelling mistakes brands make and how you aim to fix them or how you would fix them?
Oh my God, so many challenging mistakes. I think a lot of times brands come to us with that exact perspective. They're like, we want to be different. We want to make sure we're talking to the right audience, that our voice is so unique. And then when you go through all the exercises and you push them, which is our job creatively, they're like, no, we can't. No, we can't do that. We certainly can't use that word. Or nope, that's not who we actually are. And so what ends up happening is this sea of sameness. And then they wonder why their numbers aren't fantastic or why they just are kind of on par with their competitive set in market in whatever vertical they're in. So I think that's probably the number one mistake that we see is the sea of sameness. And that's because people are afraid. It's a fear-based module, right? Like they're afraid to be different because if they're different, someone might not like them. But actually, that's what compels, I think, the most impactful companies.
Is there a way you go into these things, whether you're talking to a founder or you're talking to senior executives, that you try to bring out those things in people? Because obviously a lot of people we're guarded, you know what I mean? We don't want to share those things with you. And so is there, what do you do to maybe get that aha moment? Okay, there it is. What are some of the tricks that you do?
I don't know if there's a trick to it. We have a very defined process on the agency side to get them to those aha moments. And this is going to sound super weird, but again, I'm a very transparent person. When I know a tagline is right or an image is right or a content piece is right, like the backs of my knees start to sweat. I have an actual visceral reaction when I know something is the right message. And when I have that level of conviction, you can feel it when I am conveying that to our client. Now, they can decide that that's not the direction that they want to go in, but at that point, I've done my job. I've said, this is what's going to deliver. I'm so clear on this. We'll test it. And then, of course, that's the other side of it. It's like, if they're like, no, we want to be a sea of sameness. Great. Well, let's put these two campaigns up against each other and let's talk about the numbers and what the results of those will show. And I mean, 9.5 times out of 10, I'm right. I mean, I haven't been doing this for 16 years because I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, I don't believe that for a second, but we found out two great things. found out that you're messy. We found out that you actually sweat on your knees. So I feel like I've done my job so far, so that's great. Maybe you share that with everyone, but hopefully, that was just for us. So you've launched, Fabric VC, which supports underrepresented founders. Okay, how do you help them tell stories that get investors to say yes? You're not just pulling on people's heartstrings, but you're telling real stories. And these are real companies, these are real people. Take us through that process a little bit.
We actually run them through the same process we do on the agency side. And that is one of our big differentiators as a fund. Most fund managers or GPs, which is what I am on that side of the fence, again, are a sea of sameness, right? They're these spin-offs, finance bros of these big A16Zs, Blackstones, whatever. They have no actual operating experience. And so when we launched Fabric, in order to differentiate ourselves, the marketing component became really key. So we run them through the same process we would run a client through on the agency side. We call it the Fabric thread count because we still are marketers and had to be clever about it. And they get that report no matter if we end up writing a check or not. But if we do write a check and they have a score we believe we can add value to, we actually double down with sweat equity from the agency side. And the agency is an LP in the fund. So they're interconnected. And depending on where the brand is in their journey, sometimes it requires a remessaging. Sometimes the message is great, but they have no digital strategy. And so they're not in front of the right audiences. So I think it's on a case-by-case basis in terms of where the marketing needs are on the investment side.
You're obviously passionate about this stuff. I mean, obviously you said that was the way you were brought up, with this passion, but there's got to be more to it than that. What do you think, like the circumstances in your life that created that passion to say, okay, this is what I am, and I'm going to help these people? I mean, tell us a little bit about that passion.
It comes down really to my money journey. And this is something that I teach and I speak about all the time because I realized, again, it was a moment of transparency, right? It was an ability for me to connect with our potential investors in a meaningful way and in a different way than a typical GP. And so before I launched Elevate, I ended up having to take over a family business. And when I took over that family business, I realized it was fully over leveraged. My dad was always a great schmoozer, which is where I get my skill set from, but he should never have been running companies. And it was a big national brand. So we were lucky to be able to turn that around, sell it in 2009. But I realized in that timeline, because the financial piece of that company was so broken, it really damaged my money story. Like it created some weird narratives for me. When I started making real money at the agency, I had like this moment of recognition. I was like, oh, wow, I've got bad lady syndrome. Like I just am so afraid that the bottom is going to fall out at any moment. So I joined a women's investment group. I was the youngest person in that group by probably 20 years. And they would just sit and talk jargon about finances. And I would nod along and pretend like I knew what the hell they were talking about. I would go home and I would Google and I would do my homework. And pretty soon thereafter, they brought a $1 million carve out from a late stage venture fund to the table for that group. And I came home to my husband and I said, I know I'm new at this. We've done our diligence. I really need to get in this deal. I think we should get in this deal. And he goes, I trust you. Let's do it. And we will exit that position in the next year at anywhere between a 6 and an 8x, which is a pretty good return. So I think part of the reason that I do the Fabric piece, other than loving working with diverse founders, and that's who we knew on the agency side, is really making sure that women and men of all kinds have access and are invited to this table. That's why they call it an access class, not an asset class, right? And so sharing my personal money journey, not having been so healthy on that side for a while, and then having this 180, perspective, and now really digging in on the financial side, I think is kind of my why on that side.
I mean, I run into this, so I'm wondering if you do as well. When you're an agency and you say, hey, once you get past and you've got the client interested or the potential client, and then you say, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. Do you have fear? Is there a fear like, oh, now we got to deliver? Like, man, I promised them a great story or stories and a great campaign. Now we got to do it. Is there any sort of doubt that creeps into your mind, like that goes, oh man, I hope I can actually, put my work where my mouth is, kind of thing?
I do think there's always a little fear factor, but I think that's also what keeps you honest and keeps you driven, right? If I was like, whatever, every time I had a new client, then I don't think the work would be as good. Now, my team runs the day-to-day there and they are just amazing. We actually did an ESOP on the agency when I launched the fund. So now they're actually owners on that side, which is pretty remarkable. And so they're really the magic behind the agency now. And we've developed a really operationally driven process. So even when we have those little fear factor moments, it's usually not about the deliverable. It might be about the relationship or about a challenging client, or maybe the budgets aren't where we needed them to be. And so we're nervous about making sure that we can get their numbers where they need to be, things like that.
Do you take it personally when you think you've delivered something great and the client just looks at it and goes, sorry, you missed? Go back to the drawing board. Is that like personal to you, or is that just business?
I mean, I think it's all a little personal, right? Because it's your heart and soul, and you've done all this work leading up to that. But usually we present a few different versions of a campaign, and almost always there's at least some pieces that will resonate. And it's an iterative process too, right? Like it can't just be us saying this is the brand. It has to be coming from the brand team or the company team on the other side of the table or camera. So I think we're pretty good at iterating through those versions of what a campaign might look like to get to a point where everyone's really happy. We've never really gotten to a place where the client was like, this needs to be thrown out and start over, right? Like, I think as you get older in your career, you figure out how to operationalize marks along the way to make sure, like, this is what we said, this is still what you're interested in, right? Yep. Okay. And this is the creative and the copy that you were interested. Yep. Okay. And this is the color. Yep. Okay. And you have these like benchmarks along the path so that you don't end up in a deer in headlight situation where a client's really unhappy.
Yeah, for me, I don't run into it much when I'm dealing with clients, but when I used to do more movie trailers, I mean, just sometimes, the director or the producer would say, what the heck is this? Like, well, that's your movie. But anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
That's dealing with creatives.
Yeah, well, no, them too. But I'm the creative usually, so there we go. I think we have time for one last question, and that is, what do you really view as your secret sauce and your key to continued success? I've struggled with this. What's my elevator speech? You don't have that. You come on, boom. And what do you really think your secret sauce is that that it's just going to continue the path to success that you're on?
I think it's a couple of things. I feel my gift is people. Like I have this gift in a room to make people feel really comfortable. I think because I'm not, even though I am polished and I clearly have a lot of years under my belt, I never come in with that kind of bravado. I hope I don't come in with that kind of bravado. And so I'm very playful and I find joy in my life. And I think when you show up as a joyful whole human, I know this is a little woo, but I'm pretty happy in my life in general. I've made really good decisions. It's not always been easy, certainly. And life can be very hard. But at the end of the day, I'm so lucky and I show up with that energy. I try to show up with that energy every time. And I think people just feel that, like we are all energy and we vibrate at these certain levels, and you kind of attract the people that like that energy, or you repel people that are like, oh, she's too much. Certainly can be that. But to me, my gift is people for sure.
Fantastic. Is there anything I haven't asked you that maybe you want to share with us real quick? You were gracious enough to, spend 20 minutes with us. So I thank you for that. Is there something that maybe I haven't asked you? They said, gosh, I wish Rich had asked me that.
Well, maybe how you can help us on the fun side.
Okay. How can we help you on the fun side?
Anyone who's interested, please follow us at fabricvc.com. We have amazing pitch days every quarter, so you can learn about some incredible founders and then get out there, write checks, introduce us to folks who can write checks, or give us a similar platform like you've done, Richard, to educate and empower people about the asset class.
And where would they go? For the people that are interested, they go to your website, where would
fabricvc.com.
Fantastic. Well, you are wonderful. You're actually exceeded the intro I got for you. So thank you so much for spending some time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
Take care. Bye-bye.